Hello and welcome back to the Sink Take Podcast. My name is Colin Williams. I'm here with my co-host Marco Rogers, and today we have a special edition, episode 100 of the Second Take Podcast. We just thank you guys all, our regular listeners, for just devoting once a week to listening to our podcast. We appreciate it so much. But with that being said, I see no reason to waste any time. So our schedule for today, we're just going to recap last week of college football. And then next week will be our college basketball segment, so don't worry about that. And then we'll do a quick NFL Week 9 recap and predictions, and then we'll get into our college football Week 11 predictions. So, Marco, can you start us off with number 3, Michigan, taking down Purdue?
Yep, so definitely very good first quarter here, and end of the third quarter and fourth quarter were good. However, that second quarter, Michigan got outscored by Purdue. We just did not look good. Nobody really felt like playing in that second quarter is what it looked like. Purdue really felt like they won the line of scrimmage. Outside of that, the goal line, our run game did not have much success. They were running it pretty decently throughout most of the field. We were able to tighten down once they got closer, but they were able to get 5-yard runs pretty consistently. But JJ, pretty good performance. Didn't miss on some throws I thought he should have hit on, but pretty good performance. Defense, good performance. They pretty much scored 6 points, but they scored a touchdown like a fourth down with 20 seconds left. But overall, pretty happy about this performance, but run game is going to have to be better against a team like Penn State, and run defense is going to have to be better against a team like Penn State.
Yeah, definitely need to tune it up a little bit. But overall, I would say we didn't look great, but still managed to get a dominant win. So definitely a little bit of a confidence booster, in my opinion. Moving on, number 2, Georgia defeats number 12, Missouri. Good win here for Georgia, but Missouri was able to keep it close for the entire game, really. I would say mainly Missouri's downfall here was that Brady Cook just had a very subpar game. But other than that, Missouri, I thought, looked like a good team overall. And were able to compete with Georgia, which is very impressive. Marco?
Yeah, Cody Schrader was really running all over Georgia. They did not throw the ball well, which was their downfall, as you said. But they were able to make this a highly competitive game through the fourth quarter, really until the end. Carson Beck, pretty good game, but Georgia's offense just doesn't look that scary. Their defense, running-wise, doesn't look that scary. However, they have some very talented players in the secondary, which is really the heart of that defense. So, Georgia, pretty good performance against a top 15 team, but definitely some weaknesses shown here.
Yeah, definitely showed some holes in this one. Moving on, number 23, Kansas State gets stunned at number 7, Texas. Texas wins this one 33-30. And in this one, it was weird. Kansas State completely outperformed Texas in the air. Will Howard threw for 4 touchdowns, 327 yards, only a pick. Malik Murphy didn't play well, 2 picks, 1 touchdown, 248 yards. But it was just the ground game for Texas that really won it here. Jonathan Brooks, 112 yards, whereas Kansas State's leading rusher, Trayshawn Ward, only got 30 yards on the ground. So good win here for Texas. They moved to 8-1. Marco?
Yeah, good one for Texas, but it really felt like they stole this one. Although they were up by 20 pretty much at halftime, Kansas State pretty much just scored 3 touchdowns back to back to back in the span of 2 minutes. And from there, they really started taking it over. Then overtime, Texas makes a field goal. Kansas State has it, first and goal from the 4, go for past 4 straight plays, including a 4th and goal from the 4 when they could have kicked a field goal, which I probably would have done. They decided not to. So Kansas State really felt like they threw this one away and should have won, but good win for Texas and faced some adversity.
Yeah, definitely a good way to respond for them. Next up, number 9, Oklahoma loses at number 22, Oklahoma State. Marco, you want to take that?
Yep, in the final bedlam, Ollie Gordon just really dominated this game. They clearly had a game plan of just running straight at this Oklahoma defense, and it worked. Alan Bowman, okay game, had quite a few incompletions, but threw for over 300 yards. And Dylan Gabriel, costly interception. Oklahoma's offense just didn't look like it was enough. And Oklahoma, completely fell apart after that Red River rivalry. But good one for Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma's out of playoff contention.
Yep. Definitely sad final bedlam there for the number 9 ranked team in the country. Moving on, number 14, LSU loses at number 8, Bama. Another disappointing loss here for LSU. I don't think many thought they were going to win this one. And I would say this is Jaden Daniels' most underwhelming performance of the season, even though it wasn't that bad at all. I meant most underwhelming in terms of passing, whereas on the ground he was phenomenal, ran for 163 yards. Passing wise, only 219 yards, but when you rush for 163, that'll make up for it. But unfortunately, his team failing him again, and the Crimson Tide just put up too many points for LSU to handle. Marco?
Yeah, Jaden Daniels really just struggled throwing the ball, but Jalen Milroe, that man is an absolute beast when it comes to running. 4 rushing touchdowns at quarterback is ridiculous. He's really grown as a quarterback since that game in Tuscaloosa against Texas. And Bama, all of a sudden, they're looking like they're legitimate playoff contenders. A couple of easy games here to end the year, and then if they win the SEC championship, they will be in the playoffs, which is surprising, but Alabama really came a long way since the beginning of the year and is looking good right now.
Yeah, definitely. Alabama taking big strides, trying to push, make a late push for the playoffs. And then finally, number 19, UCLA loses at Arizona. And me and Marco were talking about this during the week. Or throughout this week, and we're just like, Arizona is just genuinely a good team. Couple really close games against very good teams that they honestly could have won, and they would be in playoff contention if they had. But Arizona gets this one done 27-10. UCLA just still hasn't resolved that quarterback situation. Ethan Garbers, although he's better than Dante Moore was, Dante Moore is still getting a few snaps here and there. He is still not the quarterback you want at a high major school. So definitely UCLA struggling offensively still, has some gaps to fill on the defensive side of the ball, and Arizona gets this one done. Marco?
Yeah, Arizona, close loss to Washington, Mississippi State, and USC. If they win 2 of those games, ball bounced the other way. This is a legitimate team, as you said. They're playing some very good football right now, 3 straight wins against good ranked teams. But UCLA really falling apart. Their offense just been so bad all year, and their defense just can't do enough to make up for such a bad offense. So tough loss for UCLA, but good one for Arizona as they keep rolling.
Yep, Arizona continues to roll. Moving on, we have the NFL, Browns at the Ravens. Marco, what's your outlook on this one?
I think that the Ravens get it done. They've blown out 2 of their past 3 opponents, both of them good opponents in the Seahawks and Lions. Lamar's looking elite. I do think Myles Garrett does feast on Lamar a little bit in this game, but I think the Ravens get it done. I think they're just the most complete team in the NFL, really, as of right now. So give me the Ravens here, 31-21.
Yeah, like you said, Ravens have looked phenomenal in the past couple of weeks, and you really just can't take that away from Kill the Lions a couple weeks ago, which is honestly one of the more impressive wins I've seen in the NFL all season, to beat them that soundly. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Ravens roll here, 38-14. Next up, we have Lions at the Chargers. 4:05 game in this one. I'm taking the Lions, continuing to ride with my guys, and here's why. Chargers 4-4 have definitely been on and off, led by Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert. But the Lions, like, even though they had that tough loss against the Ravens the other week, not only do I think the Ravens are a phenomenal team, but just the way we were able to bounce back, I don't know. I think it showed like signs of a very good team, even though it wasn't the best win over the Raiders. Give me the Lions here. Goff has a big game. Gibbs came out of his shell last week. And do you know if Montgomery's going to be back this week?
Looks like he's questionable.
Yeah, and if Montgomery's back this week, it's over. So give me the Lions here, especially if Montgomery plays.
I'm actually going to take the Chargers here. Their defense has looked incredible in the last few weeks. Obviously, they held the Jets to 6 and the Bears to 13. Two bad offenses. But, I mean, they did bad against the Chiefs. They did okay against the Cowboys. Like, this is not a bad defense like years in the past. Herbert's playing at a high level. I think he passes all over this Lions secondary without C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And I think Goff and the Lions just don't quite have enough firepower receiving wise. They do have some great receivers. I just don't think they have quite enough to compete with a high powered offense like this. Give me the Chargers 28-21.
Yeah, I mean, this dude is a D1 Lions hater, but aside from that, let's move on to our final segment, college football week 11 predictions. Margaret, do you want to start or end with the Michigan game?
Let's end with the Michigan game.
All right, so we're going to start it with Florida at number 19 LSU, and we're actually going to also be starting with my upset pick. I got Florida in this one to beat number 19 LSU. Both teams are below average defensively here, but Florida is just a slightly better defensive team than LSU. And even though Jaden Daniels, he will have a good game. I mean, I don't know if there's been a game yet where I've been just completely underwhelmed by him. Even though he will have a good game and LSU will score points, Florida's offense is going to be able to keep up because of LSU's lack of defense, and the Gators will get the win here. Margo?
Yeah, I mean, coming off a loss to 3-6 Arkansas, going to Death Valley for a night game, you're just not going to win that. Give me LSU here. Pretty close game. I think Graham Mertz plays well, but I think LSU's team is just better. Night game in Death Valley. Enough said. LSU wins it.
All right. Yeah, definitely could go either way there. Moving on, number 18 Utah at number 5 Washington. I mean, this is a super good one. I mean, we've seen Utah be very good, and we've seen Utah be very bad. So, Marco, which one's it going to be this week?
I think they're going to be very bad. The last good team they played was Oregon. They got killed. Their offense just isn't that good. I think their offense will find some success against this bad Washington defense. Maybe put up 25 points, 24. But I think Washington's offense is too good. And even against an elite defense like Utah's, Michael Penix will find a way to put up points. Give me Washington here, 34-24. Close to the first 3 quarters, but Penix and that offense pulls away late.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen Washington get scored 33 points on by Stanford 2 weeks ago and then 42 by USC last week. And they have won both those games. Their offense continues to provide. And I'm still going to take Washington in this one. But if Washington wants to be a playoff team and compete in the playoffs, they're going to have to somehow find some source of defense. And they weren't that bad at defense earlier in the season. I mean, obviously they let up 32 points to Cal, which wasn't great, and they let up 33 to Oregon. But, I mean, there was a few games they were holding teams to under 10 points. So if they can find something like that again, this Washington team definitely could cruise into the playoffs. So moving on, we have number 15 Oklahoma State at UCF. Marco, you can go first.
This is actually going to be my upset pick. UCF is 4-5, 1-5 in conference, but they just got to win last week, and they're the best 4-5 team in the country. They barely lose to pretty much everyone. Lost to Oklahoma by 2, did get killed by Kansas, lost to Baylor by 1. That game was pretty crazy. This is a pretty good UCF team, really. Bowman, I don't think, is that good for Oklahoma State. I think UCF takes advantage of him. I think they just stack the box, stop that run game, and that's all it really takes to beat Oklahoma State. Give me UCF here. I think Plumlee has a really big game. I'm take UCF 34-28, stuff the box, able to slow down that offense enough, and UCF's offense takes off. So give me the Golden Knights.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a chance for anything to happen. But I think OK State continues that philosophy of running the ball like last week, and they just absolutely dominate the ground game like they did against Oklahoma. Moving on, we have number 13 Tennessee at number 14 Mizzou. I'm gonna take Missouri in this one. They competed with Georgia last week, like the entire game. And even though you have Tennessee with Joe Milton and whatnot, big arm, I just think Missouri's more well-rounded, and they'll get the win here. Marco?
Yeah, definitely interesting game. Tennessee playing Georgia next week. Looking for some much-needed momentum. Mizzou's on extra defense. Milton takes really well. So down one really heavy. So give me your 35-28.
Yep, and then our final game of the week, number 9 Ole Miss at number 2 Georgia. Marco, who you got?
I'm taking Georgia. Ole Miss is not that good of a team. The one good team they've played was Alabama, and they lost that game. Their defense is more improved, but their offense is not as good as past years. Also, a little bit of controversy after what Lane Kiffin said this past day about like some sort of mental health thing with the player. Not really going to go too deep into it, but I'm not going to say anything completely against Lane Kiffin, but maybe just the added controversy could affect them. Give me Georgia here pretty easily. Yeah, win by 10 plus.
Yeah, last week during our playoff rundown, college football playoff ranking rundown, we were just talking about how there's a big drop off once you get to Ole Miss in the rankings, and I think they still haven't proven anything. Georgia gets the win pretty easily. Carson Beck does what he needs to do, and Georgia cruises through with no problem. Marco, you got anything else?
Yep, Michigan plays Penn State this weekend.
Oh, they do that. We did forget about that. Or I forgot about that. So finally, number 3 Michigan at number 10 Penn State. Michigan's biggest test of the year. Penn State is the first defense, first offense we've played that can even remotely compete with us. Yeah, you have good rushers on the defensive side of the ball, great run stoppers, and you have corners that can compete with Roman Wilson, which we haven't seen. They can compete with Roman Wilson in man-to-man, which we haven't seen at all this season, especially last week against Purdue. He was killing them. So, Marco, based on all this, what's score prediction?
Well, it's tough for me. I think Keandre Lampert-Smith is going to be a really tough guy for us to guard. Although,
wait, or Marco?
What?
Or is this a non-prediction week?
Yeah, non-prediction week. I think Keandre Lampert-Smith is going to be very tough for Michigan to guard. Although Drew Aller, the only real defense he's played, which was Ohio State, he really struggled in that game. He was legitimately awful. We just got to stop the run game. Keandre Allen, Singleton, 2 very good runners. However, they have not been used very well so far this year. I think Penn State's going to try to get them more involved. I think our run defense is very stout. I think both teams definitely score under 30 in this game. I do not think this is a high scoring type game. I think JJ should be able to play well, but it's very tough against a defense like this. They fly around. Abdul Carter, Kalen King, If Chop Robinson plays, that will definitely impact the game, as he is a top 3 edge rusher in all of college football. So very interested to see if he plays. Not gonna predict this game, but definitely the most nervous I've been for a Michigan game since last year.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is just kind of silencing all the sign-stealing people and just dominating this game. That would just be really nice to see. I mean, for Michigan, I think game plan has got to be relying on Roman Wilson. Like, we're gonna struggle on the ground. We should be able to punch the ball in around the goal line. We haven't had trouble with that at all this season. But getting down the field, I think we'll struggle on the ground a little bit. We'll have to lean on Roman Wilson a little bit. Maybe even Samaj Morgan comes in the game, has a big play. So yeah, I think that's got to be the game plan. Definitely gonna be a test though this week. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for listening to episode 100 of the Second Take podcast. We will see you next week. Peace.
Yep.